Please stay on. Please. Come here. Come here. Come here. Yeah! Woo! Look at the size of that one! Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Kenny Brower sent me a message last night and told me to catch him a 7-pounder on a black and blue jig. Oh my gosh! Look at the size of that thing! Woo! Oh my gosh! Holy moly! Look at that! Oh my gosh! Oh! I don't know, it's big. It is big, folks at home, it's giant. Look at that. You know, I caught a fish today that's probably to this point one of the most important fish of my career. I don't even remember how big it was, 8 something. I thought when I caught it, I thought it was a 10-pounder. You know, I'd been catching some fish this week on deeper docks, you know, that had 4 or 5 foot of water on them. It was so hard to fish them this week because there was a tremendous amount of current blowing underneath of those. And you know, I hate to keep harping on that 3/8 ounce lure parts online flipping jig, my signature series, but that was the key, to pitch that up there and let it float under those docks with that current. And that's exactly what I did when I caught that big fish. I pitched it up there, let it go down, started floating it down through there, and I felt it hit a little piece of brush or a limb or a stick or whatever was there. And then all of a sudden I got that big sponge mush bite, that big jig bite that we all know and we all love. And when I cracked her, she didn't move, and I seen her come out from under the water, and she looked like she was as long as this flipping rod. It was unbelievable. All I could do at that point was pray to God that she stayed on, and fortunately she stayed on. Thank goodness for 20-pound Seagar and Vizex. Got her up there to the boat, got my hand in her mouth and got her in the boat, and at that point I felt like 1,000 pounds had been lifted off of me. I mean, you guys are going to see the footage, and I'm screaming and hollering, and you know, typically that ain't me. Typically I don't get excited like that, but that's that one. 14 years of emotions and close calls and sacrifices and struggles to get to this point. Like I said, that fish is probably to this point the most important fish I've ever caught in my career, and I'm truly blessed to be standing here with this trophy today.
Bill Lowen looking for 18 pounds, 2 ounces. 12!
Been a long time coming. Been close a lot of times, and finally got it done. You know, this week was truly one of the scenarios of fishing in your comfort zone. You know, when we started practice here, the water was down. I think it was a foot below winter pool. I seen things at Lake Pickwick that I've never seen in my life, and there was hardly anything in the water to throw at. As practice went on, you know, I found some offshore fish and some grass and things like that that I thought I was going to fish. And then all of a sudden we got big storms and tornadoes and like 400 inches of rain, it seemed like, and the river went on a tear. It came up 6, 7, 8 foot. I don't know how high it came up, but it came up extremely high. And then we had 2-day delay. So basically when we got back out there, it was like practice all over again, okay? Fortunately for me, I grew up on the Ohio River, which is, doesn't fish like Lake Pickwick does, but it's the same situation. You know, water rises and falls, happens every spring. So I was used to that. I was used to rising water and falling water and muddy water, you know, where a lot of guys maybe would get spun out. I was able to keep my head on straight. So I figured that in the area that I was going to fish, those fish were going to get pushed to the sides. And what I mean by that is the big grass flat that I was fishing on had a tremendous amount of current running through it. So there was a big island there, and there were some docks there. So the very first day of the event, I run over there behind this island, and it's got a bunch of laydowns on it, which are actually dry in practice. And now they got, you know, 4 or 5 foot of water in them. So I was very fortunate that when I come around there, pulled up to my first laydown, I caught like a 3 or 4 pounder, okay? It was so important for me to get that bite to keep my head screwed on straight. So I just put my head down, flipping a black and blue jig, and I went up that stretch, and the next thing I know, I got like 20 pounds. Like I said, I was very blessed to land on those fish, but the big key for me this week was fishing current breaks out on the main river. Anything that would block that current, whether it be a laydown, a stump, a tree, anything that would block that current is what I was fishing, okay? What I did here this week was I used my 3/8 ounce Signature Series flipping jig from Lure Parts Online in black and blue with silver tinsel in it. I believe we call it black and blue flash with a chunk trailer on there. And the reason I went with 3/8 is so that jig will float with the current through the cover or whatever kind of current break you were fishing. If you were to use a 1/2 ounce or a 3/8 ounce, it wants to go down and get stuck on the bottom or get stuck in that cover. So simply by going with a 3/8 allows that jig to float through that cover. I fished this on a Lew's flipping rod, custom speed stick with a Team Lew's light, 7.5 to 1 gear ratio, and 20-pound Invisex, Seagar Invisex, okay? That was my predominant bait all week right there. Now, the first couple days, you know, when I noticed how much those fish come up or how fast they came up on that cover in that water, there's a lot of reeds on this lake, okay? And I caught some key fish this week as well on a Strike King rodent. And depending on if the water was dirty in the pocket or if it was clean, would decide on the color that I used. I used 2 colors. I used black and blue, and I used green pumpkin with the little tentacles dyed orange, okay? Fish those on the same rod, same line, 5/16 ounce weight, Rains tungsten weight with a 5/0 Hayabusa flipping hook. These 2 baits right here were, like I said, my predominant baits this week that put all the fish in the boat for me. One adjustment that I had to make today was when I pulled up to my island, the water was down about 1.5 feet from yesterday. A lot of the places that I was catching fish on were dry. So I had to scratch that. And it's really hard once you've caught so many fish off of an area to scratch it and start all over, okay? So what I knew I needed to do is start running deeper areas, bluff swings and things like that, deeper docks. And what I had to do on those deeper areas, I had to go to a 1/2 ounce jig, okay? Not so much just to float it through that current, but actually to get it down there on the bottom in that deeper water, okay? And what I did to make that happen was I took a 1/2 ounce jig and I took our jig chunk from Lure Parts Online, and instead of threading it up on there like I had been doing, I pinned it right through the nose, okay? Just like this to make a big giant profile. Like I said, I went to a 1/2 ounce, but I made that a big giant profile. So even though it was a 1/2 ounce, it would still float down through there in that current. This bait right here gave me 2 key bites today. 2 bites that made me settle down and put my head down and fish. So overall, it was an amazing week. I kept it simple. Like I said, fished in my comfort zone, went out there and fished current breaks, fished the river just like I would fish it at home on the Ohio River. You know, it was truly awesome to be able to fish in my comfort zone and finally get me a big blue trophy. So yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much speechless. It hasn't sunk in yet. I hope all these tips here help you all out when you're fishing your river at home, especially when it comes up and you're faced with conditions like we were this week. I know if you give these little deals a shot, especially on river systems with a ton of current in it, I know you're going to get a lot more bites and put some more fish in the boat for you.
Yeah!